All right, guys, welcome to the channel. I said that I was going to bring him back on. And you know something, in 2014, February of 2014, a certain guy came on what we knew as the 24CH Montreal Canadiens behind the scenes show. A new player came to town from Winnipeg, Manitoba. And this intro we have here, yes, it does actually say Habs Tonight. No, we're not running the show back, at least not right now. I mean, there's no plans for that at the moment. But this intro is so good that we have to show it. And to welcome back my buddy Dale Weise, we got to do it in style. Thank you, and Nick, for doing this intro when you did. And let's play it again to welcome back our man, Dale Weise. Weiser, welcome back. It is good to have you, dude. Remember the old days when the intro would get us so fired up before shows? Like,
man, it gets me fired up right now. Jeez, you're like, wow, you're pitching the idea. Maybe we run it back a little bit. Who knows in the future what it holds? But happy to be here with you, buddy.
Oh, dude, gets the blood pumping just a little bit, and it's so good to have you back on, man. And Nick has done some amazing graphic design work, as we all know, and she did this beautiful thumbnail for us and threw me in there because I look good in the jersey too, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, it looks great. Looks awesome. She always does such a good job. I'm sure everyone that's following you is probably following her stuff. She does such good work.
Yeah, no doubt. She was a cornerstone of the Habs Tonight team for a while. And we'll talk about that experience too when we did decide to do the show. But got to say again, welcome back, man. It's good to have you. It's been since December 6th, 2021 that you last did a show with us before Christmas, man. So you know, we're going to talk about Sweden. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, I think, just because it's been a year and a half since we've had you here, and it's good to catch up and everything. So let's maybe start with, you know, playing in Sweden and, you know, you making the decision to keep your career going after the NHL, and just it was a different world over there. So just dive into it and tell us all about it, man.
Yeah, I think when we were on the show a little bit, I discussed it a little bit, but most of the time we were, more so talking about the guests. They were a lot more important than me playing in Sweden. But yeah, it was interesting. When I look back on my time, am I glad that I went there and did it? Yeah, I think so. I think I needed to kind of get it out of my system. When I finished in the bubble in Montreal, after spending half a year in Laval, then coming up in the NHL and playing well and saying, man, like I'm 31 years old. I can still play. Like I can still play in the league at a high level. And I played great. Came back in the bubble, played great. Again, still felt like I could play. And then not getting a contract offer and not being able to train. I think I went into it a little bit where COVID in Winnipeg shut down every rink. Like I know in Toronto and Kelowna and a lot of places in Canada, people were allowed to train and skate. So it was fine. If I could have trained and skated, I would have took a tryout, no problem. But I didn't skate for like 5 months, and all of a sudden I had some tryout offers. So I was like, this is not an option for me. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to anybody. So, I took that year off. Don't regret it for a second. It was the first time I got to do Halloween and Christmas and everything with my family, which was everybody knows is my pride and joy. But I still felt like I had more to give. And then I went to Sweden, and what an experience that was. Like first time being in Europe, obviously, I didn't know what to expect, but it was, I don't want to be rude, but it is like playing junior essentially, but making a little more money, where you don't have the resources in the trainers and the facilities. You're traveling a lot on game days, like, some 4 or 5 hour bus trips to get to games, which, they talk about back-to-backs in the NHL are an issue, where you're flying and you're staying in the Ritz-Carltons, you're flying on private jets, and that's considered an issue. So, it kind of takes you back a little bit. And then getting, last game of training camp, I sprained my MCL, came back 3 weeks later, did it again. And that kind of just goes back to not having the doctors, the right trainers, the resources there. to really properly be able to play at the top level. And then it was kind of a nightmare from there. I don't know what I played 12, 15 games after that. And I think both sides of the team and me were like, yeah, please let me go home. I got to get out of here.
Yeah. I mean, it was on both ends that the family was missing you. You were missing them. And we were journeying along with you, and you were still doing shows with us up until a certain point in Sweden too. But there came a time when, did you maybe lose a bit of love for the game? Like, was it just that much different over there? Was it a combination of missing the family and like, okay, I'm losing my love for the game and I miss the family. This is probably the best time to wrap it up here.
Yeah, it was a combination of everything. I think on the hockey side, I still had passion for the game. I still wanted to play. That's why I went over there. My intention was to play for a couple of years. It wasn't to just go play one more year and to retire. But then I got there, I got injured, I came back, and it's weird. So in Europe, I don't know if it's every league, but I know in Sweden you play with 13 forwards. And when I came back, I was literally playing on a fourth line with 4 guys. And there were some games where like the 13th forward would not play the whole game. He'd just sit there. We had a young guy that would just sit there. And, I'm coming back, I'm rehabbing myself and playing. And it's got back to the point where, I could have stayed in the American Hockey League, stayed in North America if I really wanted to, probably stayed in the NHL and maybe been in and out of the lineup. But I was so finished with doing that. Like I did it for my whole career. I just wanted to play again and be more, just a bigger part of the team. Because it's not fun to be sitting in the stands in the press box watching hockey. I can do that at home with my family and be a fan. I don't need to be there as a player. And then it was kind of the same thing. You go to Sweden, you want to play, and I get injured, and then I'm barely playing again. It's like, if I'm not going to be with my family, like, no thanks. It was miserable every day. And it just was terrible. Like missing my family, not being able to play. I didn't come over there I'm not trying to grind a living. I didn't need to at that point. So it was frustrating on a lot of levels.
Was there any, like, I mean, you had a good time with your teammates, but other than just meeting them, because you kind of, I mean, you're not a big Twitter guy anymore. Like your account doesn't exist, even though it's there. But
I know, so I can't get it back. I can't get it back. So this is how, I mean, I'm not technical. This is a good story. So when Twitter started, I had a guy through my agency doing it all for me. So he had his email and his password, and he fired the tweets out for the first little bit. Then I took it over a little bit, but then when it came, I got locked out of my account. I had to have the email and the password. I couldn't recover it. So I lost my my one account, and I was like, oh man. Like, I don't love Twitter that much that I wanted to really build it up again. I like if there's an audience, then I'm happy to do it. So I was like, forget it.
Yeah, I was just one of the last tweets you said was, it was definitely like the weirdest year in your career you described playing in Sweden. So what did you mean by the weirdest, just in terms of the injury and all that, or was it a combination of other stuff?
Yeah, I think just a really combination. Like I said, it was kind of like going back to junior where you're like riding on the bus, and then I'm like, I haven't had a roommate for like 10 years in the NHL. So, but in Sweden, you have a roommate, and they have single beds that are like, my 4-year-old sleeps on bigger beds. And it's just, again, the resources that I was used to playing with were just so different, where the NHL gives you every possible resource to be as successful as possible every single day. And in Sweden, on the team I played on, it was like, you had none of those. It was literally like, it was like playing beer league. Like, I shouldn't even say it was junior. I had more resources in junior than I had in Sweden. And, like trainers, like they would take weekends and stuff. Like they worked during the week and they would take weekends off. And it's like, what are you talking about? There's no weekends in professional hockey. Like, we have a game or a practice, you're a trainer, that's your job. But it was, man, we didn't even have a gym in the rink. We had to walk. I wasn't walking because it was freezing. I'd hop in my car, and we'd have a team meeting in the dressing room. I'd get in my car. I'd drive down the block to the public gym, and we'd have public workouts there. Then I would get in my car, drive back, and go out and practice. It was ridiculous. It wasn't professional hockey to me. It was just so weird. Like, we were stopping at gas stations after games to eat, and just a lot of it was just, I couldn't. It was. You hear these stories about, like, crazy Russian leagues and everything. Like, Sweden was no different. It was like beer league.
A far cry from the NHL, it sounds like, to say the least. Like,
very, very far.
It sounds like the OHL gets treated better than you guys did, and that's
Just for sure. There's a lot of junior programs that would have.
like WHL, like I should say CHL, like the Canadian Hockey League,
Oh yeah,
probably.
I would be willing to bet there's almost every team has a lot more resources than this. It was crazy. Like when I left, and I not that I really cared, and I didn't know if I was ever going to play again or ever put the skates on again at all. And like they had my brand new skates that were like they're custom to me, and they didn't even I didn't even ask for my gear. The trainer brought the gear to my apartment and we drove to the airport together. And he was like, yeah, the owner wouldn't let you take your skates. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know who else is going to wear them, or you're going to send back custom Dale Weise skates. But it was pretty amateur hour.
That's when you left. They wouldn't let you take your skates.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They wouldn't
That's
let me
so
take my
weird.
skates. Yeah. It was pretty amateur hour. I said it was the weirdest year. I told you.
Okay. That was the context I was looking for. I'm like, there's got to be more here.
Oh, I have so many stories. Like, I mean, just as for a guy that was going to come over there with his family, the owner didn't know that I wasn't flying with my family. Sorry, not the owner, the GM. So he's supposed to pick me and my family up. He doesn't know that I'm only coming by myself. He figured I was coming with my family. He shows up with a 4-seater vehicle. I have 4 kids and a wife, and when I'm coming to Europe for 8 months, imagine how much stuff I got to bring. He showed up with a 4-seater vehicle. Thank goodness I just showed up, and they lost my gear, they lost my everything when I showed up there. But that's beside the weirdest year. But he shows up with a 4-seater vehicle, and I'm like, what if I brought my family? What would you have done? He's like, oh, we would have figured it out, I guess. I was like, holy smokes. He got to my apartment, and it was a 2-bedroom apartment with like no window coverings and everything. There wasn't even beds. Like it was just weird.
So you don't miss it, is what you're trying to say.
I didn't miss it. I don't miss it. I had to go get it out of my system. It was like, okay, I could still play. I still want to play. And then it was such a nightmare there that it was like, thank goodness I'm done. I don't need to go see any other league over there. I'm done.
So you came back, and kind of like my situation right now, like I'm finding a new love for the game through my nephew, and he's 11 years old. But you came back, and one of the first images I saw, which we were all so happy for. I mean, like we haven't even met in person still, even though I feel like I know you pretty well by now. But we saw you leaned up against the boards, watching your kids play. You're back at home. Like it was just like it could have brought tears to your eyes, like just to see that you're back with your family. So, did you kind of start getting the love for the game back, watching your kids and coaching your kids?
Oh, definitely. And I lost the love for playing it. I wouldn't say I lost it as a fan, as we were still doing we did some shows, and I still watched the game and everything. But to be there with my kids was the best. To see how much fun they were having, to be around the rink, and I never knew if I would be like the dad that coaches stuff. I didn't know. I was never opposed to it, but once I got around it, I just loved it. You just remember the feelings you had as a kid when you're playing that age. And it was like, my whole world was hockey when I was that age. It's all I thought about. Posters on my room, watching guys on TV. It's all I ever wanted to be. So it's pretty cool to kind of, and I did a lot of charity stuff when I was playing and everything, but to be there with the kids and actually be coaching them, and just to see how cool they thought it was to have an NHL player as their coach. The feeling was just pretty awesome.
Yeah, did you feel like you were getting treated a little different just because they knew who you were? Like, was that part of it, like from a fan and coach perspective or player perspective?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I got into it a couple times with a couple visiting coaches against my son's team, and they didn't know who I was at this point. Like I had one guy, he's screaming at me because we had 2 really good players, and to put it in context, like we have a rural team. So there's no grading where we play, right? So we were in a B league in the rural area, but we have no tryouts. So we had 12 players. That was it. That's all we have. And we had the 2 best players in the league. They're elite kids, but they live out here. There's no AAA. That's all they can play. So we would smash some teams, and people would get so frustrated. And this coach is screaming at me one time, screaming at me. And he's like, oh, why doesn't he pass the puck? Why didn't he pass the puck? I was like, why would he pass the puck? The kid can go end to end. Why would he pass it? Oh, he's got to learn how to pass. I was like, stop him. Why would he pass it if nobody could stop him? Like, I had this argument with a lot of coaches, but he starts screaming at me, he like leans over the glass and he goes, I played the game. You don't know. And I was like, my assistant coach starts, we're both dying. And I leaned over the glass. I was like, you played the game? I was like, where did you play? And he's like, I played the game. You don't even know. And I was like, holy smokes, bud. And I think it was benches were on the same side. And the guy that was timekeeping looked at me. I think he knew who I was. And he just kind of like starts smirking to himself, laughing. And I was like, please tell this guy, hockey DB on your phone and pass it to this guy, please. So that was a pretty comical moment.
That's so freaking funny. I haven't laughed that hard on my channel ever.
It was so good. It was awesome. You don't know. I played the game. I was like, what? Talking to the wrong guy, man.
Like, you don't want to use the Google me line, but like, Google
Yeah,
me,
and
dude.
I didn't want to use it, but I was like, you're talking to the wrong guy.
Oh, you have no idea what we went through to play over 500 NHL games, by the way. And like,
no idea.
That's so funny, dude. Oh man, I almost drew a tear laughing. That was great.
we had a couple like that. Like, just it was wild to see how serious some people take 10-year-old hockey now.
Oh yeah, like I'm seeing it now, and it's the same thing. It's like they have a kid. His name's Nash on my nephew's team, and he just goes end to end, and same kind of level of frustration. But like sometimes my nephew plays on his select team, so he loves being on the same team as him. But you got to figure out a way to defend kids, right? And you got to come up with a new strategy. I don't know, like it is frustrating from the other side of it for sure. But when they are stopping them, it's like, oh, okay, So, but how has it been with So you mentioned some of those stories, but you did the whole season. You guys won a championship. Like you really seemed again and we could see it by your posts on Instagram and stuff. Just like you were remembering why you loved the game in the first place, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think as a father, like getting a chance to just spend some one-on-one time. I got 4 kids. Like it's tough to really balance your time out. My older guy, when I'm dealing with the twins or we're doing something, they need a little more attention than my older guy. So to get a chance to hang with Hunter, he's going to be 10 in September. To get a chance just one-on-one driving to the rink, because we live rurally, so we drive a ton to games, and that was probably the best part for me, because I just remember those drives with my dad growing up and how impactful it was. And it's just stuff that I can, you remember as a kid. Yeah, I remember playing the game and special tournaments and stuff, but I more remember those drives with my dad. So I know that was important for me, just to spend the one-on-one time. And then obviously, he's starting to really, really, really pick up the game and starting to really like it. So that's cool. Like I've been one that said I never push it on him. I've never done that. And now that he was starting to really get into it, I could push it a little bit, and we could talk about the game and stuff that he can improve on and stuff like that. So it was fun. I'll keep coaching the kids until they tell me not to.
Yeah. So you ended up liking it a lot better than you thought you would. And yeah, that's pretty amazing, man. So good for you in that regard, because it takes you back to why, like, I mean, Montreal has been a relatively abysmal, especially two seasons ago, right after the playoff run. So I was enjoying watching my nephew a lot more than than the Habs. So
So
that's okay though. So in terms of calling it a career in the NHL, so you finish your career with the Habs, and how would you look at? I mean, obviously the last part of your career was in the bubble with COVID, and that's where we first talked. Was when you were in quarantine there in Toronto. So obviously maybe like you would have liked to end it on different notes. Like we know 2014 and 15 were the best years of your career, and we've talked to the nines about that and everything. But how did you like? Where are you at now? I guess when you look back and reflect on your NHL career at this point.
Yeah, I think I've had just about 3 years since I stopped playing. So I have mixed results at this time. Like I'm proud of what I accomplished, and when I look back and I think of what I did in my career, I'm extremely proud of it. A guy that was never handed anything. I had to earn everything that I got, and I did that to a tune of 500 games. There's not a lot of people can say, and I don't know if there was many people that would have thought I could do it to the tune of 500 games. So that I'm proud of. But when I think about it at the end, it still kind of stings to me the way things kind of went down. Like I think that's maybe why I had a hard time watching it for a little bit, because it's still, I don't know if it's bitter is the right word, or resentment. I'm not really the person to ever put blame anywhere else. I kind of always like to have it on my back as that's, if I'm going to blame someone, I'm going to blame myself. And when I look at the way things happened, I finished in the bubble. I was starting, even before we shut down in March, I was really starting to play some good hockey when I got called back up again. I had a full-time role in the team and we were playing well. Not so much the team. I was playing pretty well when I got called up. I would have liked to have finished the season, had a real off season, and get into the fall and seen what have happened. I would have, I don't know. That's where I'm frustrated with, because I don't want to say COVID kind of stole my chance to finish it off. Again, I don't like making excuses. That's not the type of person I am. I sound like I'm making one now, but it kind of robbed me of the chance to at least have a tryout to see if I could have kept things going. Being a guy that's always been in shape and can always control that side of things. Physically, I could still be playing at 35, no problem. So that still bothers me, that I kind of got robbed there. And yeah.
Yeah. It seems like there's like a missing chapter in your story, man. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, to at least maybe I go for maybe we have a regular off season and we have a tryout and I go and I have a PTO and I get cut. Okay, that's it. I had my tryout, I did
Right.
it. But to not even be able to really have the chance to do it, like I said, I was home for 5 months. I couldn't skate. There was no rinks open. I couldn't train. I don't know. I just I don't know. Maybe I could have went to a different city and trained, but I was already away from my family for 3 months, and at that time, I just didn't want to be away from my family anymore. So it kind of made that difficult. So the way things ended, it didn't end the way I would have liked, and I don't know if anyone could script a perfect ending for the way they wanted their career to end. But the way mine did, it definitely left it's left a bitter taste.
Yeah, which is too bad because you came to the Canadiens and then your career's taken off, and then you guys go on that huge playoff run, 2015. Things are looking good for an extension for you, and then we all know that the heartbreaking trade that you experience now. I will say this, and I'm not sure where you're a fan of right now in terms of the team, but we thought you brought us Alex Romanov, and Phil Deneau. Phil Deneau's gone. Romanov's also gone. But Dale, you did bring us this kid. Like we need to give you some credit for that trade that actually helped you bring us Kirby Dach. So I don't know if but you did help to bring us this kid, and he looks to have some promise. So I just thought I would mention that because we thought that Romanov was the gift that we got out of it, but it's not, man. You're gonna have a gift that's gonna keep giving possibly for years to come. So
He should be. He should be. I think he's got all the talent in the world. He's big. He can skate. He can shoot. He's got the total package. So I just watching the little bit that I did last year. As long as he can stay healthy, I think he's such a huge part of that future.
he just seems like a good kid. Yeah, like it just seems like untapped potential. I mean, it's too bad that you didn't get to be under Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton, because I know there was good and bad from your era with Bergevin, but it just seemed like these guys have a really cool, calm head about them, and it's not as emotional as it was with Berge.
Yeah, and I think that's why me and Berge got along. I have no ill will towards him. He traded for me and gave me opportunity the first time. Traded me is what it is. That's part of the business. That's where we were going. But then trading me back and giving me a second chance. So I got no ill will towards him at all. If I seen him today, we could have a beer. We could have laughs for sure. I think it was more probably the coaching staff that wasn't a fan of me the second time I came back.
Is that so? Okay. Well, I feel like, oh man, like wouldn't it have been just awesome to see you? I know hindsight's 2020 and everything, but like, how would you have liked playing for a guy you used to play against in Marty St. Louis? Because it seems like everyone's just like all about this coaching style now.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I was the one probably preaching that forever, is you got to get more guys coaching like this, guys that understand. And you don't have to be the best player in the world to be the best coach. Marty was one of the best players in the world, during his prime. But, you could just see the way he talks to players on the bench, and you could see he gets fired up and stuff like that. But, from some of the guys that I've talked to, he just sounds like a guy that I would have loved to have been coached by, a guy that understands it, a guy that gets it. just the days off and stuff that you hear, wow, we got tired. Like, that's just a guy that gets it. And again, I'm not saying you got to be the best player, but you had to have been there a little bit to kind of understand the grind that a season takes. And the day off thing is huge. You look at the best teams in the league, I guarantee you they're the teams with the most days off. And it's time and time again happening. And I said it in Montreal all the time, like Claude Julien, we were just at the rink every single day. And all I see is Marty St. Louis talking about days off. And I love hearing that. I just think that's such a key if you're going to play for a long time. As a guy that had a extremely long career and successful, that's a guy that gets it.
What was the mindset of being at the rink every single day? Then, because you know that rest is going to be the only ingredient to keeping the team healthy.
I don't know. I think because it worked for him with Boston in 2011 when they won, like the story is during the playoffs, they were still practicing every single day and they weren't optional and stuff like that. I don't know the truth if that's behind. That's just kind of the stories that I heard about it. So if it worked for you there, maybe it'll work for you here. But I don't know. I just was never, every team that did that was never successful that I was on. The ones that were literally at the rink way too much. And I'm sitting there every day being like, today's got to be a day off. Nope. Practice tomorrow. Tomorrow's got to be a day off. Nope. Like we did it in Philly for 2 years. I was banging my head on the wall. Like, why are we at the rink so much? And our team is terrible. And you want to play your top guys so much and they're dying every night. Well, you wonder why. Same thing with Montreal when we were not a good team. We were at the rink every day.
I had no idea that you guys didn't like ever get days off. That's the first I'm hearing of that. So I'm kind of surprised by that.
Yeah. Claude Julien was at the rink a lot. We were there a lot. Like, you get your mandatory 4 days a month. That's like, I'm pretty sure that's still an NHLPA rule.
Okay.
And we were like, we would get the 4 and that would be kind of it, which is a ridiculous amount to be at the rink. And it's not even sometimes getting on the ice. It's, you get back from a flight at 1, 2 a.m. If you're not going to go on the ice, okay, let's have a meeting at 2, 3 o'clock. We got all day. That's what we do for a living. So
sure,
you're not going to work somewhere else. But instead, it's like we got home at 2 a.m. Let's have a meeting at 9 a.m. when you play the next day. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why? So we're going to come have a meeting at 9 and we're going to be done by 11. Like it's just, and you hear like a lot of teams that are still doing it. It just doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of like an old school mentality. So you talk about the new age of coaching and the Marty St. Louis and stuff like that. That's how you're going to have success.
I feel like Ron Bindenberg's probably doing the same thing. I could be wrong.
I mean, he's probably there every day working out by the looks of it, but I've heard him talk about days off and stuff like that. Just guys that I think played a long time, understand, not even for 1 year, but if you're going to have success as a team for a couple of years in a row and you're going to have the same players and you're going to prolong careers, you just can't skate that much if you're going to play into June. Like guys winning the Stanley Cup, what is it, 3 weeks ago? Like you got 7, like, Vegas has really got to monitor, how much those guys are skating, even in training camp, if you're going to think you're going to make another run. So it's just crazy to see teams that have success every single year. Obviously you're on to something.
Right. Well, I don't know why I'm surprised by that, but it seems like somebody's starting to figure it out, and that's a good sign. But I want to touch on the show that we were all a part of, and this was kind of an opportunity for you. I don't know if I want to say vent. Maybe I would say vent is probably a good word for at least part of it. But because you weren't able to get to the rink like you mentioned, which is a huge disadvantage during COVID, and then all of a sudden, fast forward and we're able to do this online show and provide what we're doing right now, basically again, for Habs and hockey fans. What sort of made you kind of want to do it, like with a bunch of random fans like us? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was a heck of an experience. So
yeah, it was awesome. I think vent's a good word. I think I always have so much to say, and when you're in your career, you can't really say some of the things you really want to say. You can't give your honest opinion on certain guys, or you can't just say some of the negative things, because obviously, when you're trying to get a job the following year and stuff like that, it doesn't go so well. So, knowing I was done in the NHL, I got a chance to finally come on unfiltered, say whatever I wanted to, and, meet cool people like you and enjoy doing it. I think it was awesome. I enjoyed it. It was cool to interview guys that I used to play with and kind of get on the other side of it, and not even interview them and be on that side. As I said, I don't really I'm not interested on getting on TSN or Sportsnet and broadcasting. No, thank you. But to talk to some of my buddies and kind of just, joke around and stuff like that. It was fun. And, I could definitely see us running it back here sometime in the future.
Well, hey, I mean, you heard it here first. So yeah, you know what, man? Like, I mean, that would obviously be pretty cool. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about the current state of the Habs. And I know you got a lot more to think about now. I mean, post career and stuff like that, but you're still plugged into the game. We've had a lot happen since you last came on, and this huge pick with this huge kid in Juraj Slavkovsky, this kid from Slovakia. We just drafted another kid from I wanted to say Denmark, but it's Reinbacher. So anyway, David Reinbacher. And it was a big deal. My jaws were dropped on both drafts because I thought they should take somebody else. And how wrong I was, man. So with Marty at the helm and with Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton now there running the show, it's going to be a little while before we see these results turn over. But what do you make of the future with Suzuki Caulfield, Kirby Dach and Slavkovsky? They just signed Newhook. They got a bunch of potential promising players looking forward. So what do you make of where they're at right now?
Yeah, I think they got some good pieces. To be able to lock up Cole and Nick long-term obviously is huge. Where I wouldn't say Montreal is a prime target for free agents to sign. To get two young players like that to sign long-term is huge. We touched on Kirby Dach there a little bit, where the sky is, the potential is so huge for him with his size, his skill. Man, those are the guys you win with in the playoffs. You watch how big Vegas was and even Florida, like those were big teams. And I know size is not everything, but when you have some guys like Cole and Nick, who are not the biggest of guys, it helps to have a guy like Kirby Dach coming down the middle and just, every single night. So I like the way their team's shaping up. Seems like they're trying to be aggressive. They're trying to make deals. They got some incredible young defensemen. I think when you look at how many rookies they had playing last year and playing the minutes that they were playing, I think, and I wasn't following every single game, but I want them watching and seeing the minutes they're eating up and how well they're doing. It's incredible. It's incredible. The defense is, outside of goaltending, defense is obviously the hardest position to learn in the NHL on the fly as a rookie. Like, it's not like you're in junior where everything's scrambling in junior. The NHL is so structured, and if you can't defend as a defenseman, you're going to struggle in the NHL. And they did so well. The sky is the limit for all those defensemen too. So they're building such a good back end. And, if we can get a goalie in there, I really like the way things are looking for them in the next couple of years.
Yeah, they just drafted a kid who has like a really, really likable personality. His name's Jacob Fowler, and they took him, I want to say 69th overall, I think it was. So, I mean, personality doesn't win you hockey games, but he just seemed like a kid that is like, I want to help you guys get Stanley Cups, and he actually said that. But we'll see what happens, right, in the sort of post Carey Price era here. But I want to talk to you about actually going to a game. So you actually got to go to a game. It was only the second or third time you ever got to watch a game. You were in Winnipeg, and how was that experience, actually just being in the stands with your wife and actually enjoying a date night for a change and not having the stress of the game going on behind you?
Yeah, it was awesome. We had the best time. I went to a game earlier with my son, and that was probably the first one since I stopped playing that I've been to at the rink, and then going with my wife to watch the Habs. It was just cool. Just to see a couple guys. And when you're looking at the team from 2 years ago, there was like 3 players left. I think it was Galley, Petrie, Paulie Byron. I think he was hurt. I don't think he was playing. And who else would it? Well, Jake Evans would have been there, but he was a tail end of 2020. So yeah, just to see how quickly the team turned over was pretty crazy. But just to watch a game and be a fan again was fun. We had a great time.
Were people recognizing you around the building? Like, was it like kind of like a lot of highs and hellos, or was it kind of you just kept to yourself? What was it like?
Yeah, no. So I was in my neighbor's box, so I wasn't really walking around the concourse as much.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, but still, it was kind of funny. There was a guy with a Weise jersey, and he had this I don't know what he had. He had like a clown hat on or something. But it was there was probably 3 or 4 Weise jerseys I saw in the crowd, which was pretty cool. And I was with my
Nice.
neighbor there, and he called over the guy with the Weise jersey, and I was like, "Do you know who this is?" And then he wasn't really paying attention. Then looked up and saw it was me, and he got pretty excited. So we signed his jersey for him and stuff. And it was pretty cool. It's kind of cool. Like, obviously when I was playing, you could see some Weise jerseys, but to be at a game as a fan and see it, I think it's always kind of cool. It's humbling, and it's a pretty cool experience.
I texted you in March, I think, when I saw one in Buffalo. I was like, "Let's go," and you're like, "Let's go."
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it's always good to see one in the crowd, right? And it's funny. I'm gonna pull up a clip actually here, a couple clips I actually have from the vault, if you will. But your first goal you ever scored as a Hab, I was at that game. I think Adrian from Habs Tonight mentioned that too, that we got to see you first score that one. But I have another one I'm going to pull up in a second, and I will get to it. But I remember that really well because you and PK were on a 2-on-1, and I don't know if you remember this goal. I'll show it to you in a second. But it was pretty cool because I had my Markov jersey on, and I had your shirt on underneath. So Markov had a 5-point game, and you had 2 goals and an assist or something. Like, it was the perfect night, man. Just it was a good night for sure. But before I get to that, I want to show a clip of when you first got to Montreal, man. And this was where I got a sense of you as a person. I'm like, this guy just does not seem like you seem like one of us. I think that's what we gathered from Habs Tonight, is that you're one of us. Like, you were an NHLer, but you were just you were still down to earth, and you didn't feel so far removed from everybody else. So I just appreciated that when you first came in. And this is a clip of you and Luongo before the warm-up, just after you got traded out of Vancouver. I just want to show this real quick.
It's unreal. I love it. I'm trying your glove all night long, Lou. I'm trying it all night long.
So good, man. What do you remember about that? Does that take you back to like how excited you were to be in Montreal for the first time as a player?
Yeah, I mean, man, that's a long time ago. It was weird where you get traded and then you play your team like a week and a half later.
Yeah.
These are guys that I was teammates with for 2.5 years, and we're on the same road trip. And then 9 days later we're playing each other. So it was weird, but that was for me, that was some of the best time of my career. Just coming to Montreal, growing up as a Habs fan, as everybody knows, to put on the jersey. It just seems surreal to watch that far back now. When I watch clips like that, it was like I would never played on Vancouver. I was always on Montreal, because that's when it really, I don't know. That's when I had the most fun. I have the best memories. Everything was in Montreal, so those are fun. That's when it all started to go right.
Yeah, this was this was your second game actually with the club, but this, I think, coming up here is your first point as a Montreal Canadian, and it's the Winnipeg connection. So I'll let the clip speak for itself here, Dale.
And then White pulls some strings, and it's 2-0 for the Canadiens.
Whitey.
So good, man. So good. Like, you're mic'd up, right? So that's why, like, for that whole 24CH episode, we had you mic'd up and got to get behind the scenes of what it was like. We got to see your perspective, what it was like to be a Montreal Canadian. So I think that's why we connected with you, because it was like your childhood team. You come in here, and this is what it would be like for all of us. Like, here's a point of view from Dale. So I just love that stuff, man.
Oh, I love that. That was like, it was so cool because, like I literally played against Ryan White since I was 8 years old. Like, he lived 2 hours from Winnipeg, but we always played Brandon. He beat city finals, provincial finals, actually, when we were 15. Our team was undefeated. We ended up playing Whitey in the final, and he beat us in 5 games. But, I knew him so well to get a chance to not only come to Montreal, but play with a guy. We were rivals in the Western Hockey League, too. He knocked us out in the playoffs my last year as junior. But I always had so much respect for him. So it was really cool, him personally, to get a chance to play with him on a line and be around him, and then be in Montreal too. It was just, that whole first week was kind of a whirlwind. Like, when I think back on it, it's like, man, did that really happen? Because it's just so surreal, where you go from, dreaming your whole life of playing for the Montreal Canadiens, and then you finally do it. Like, yeah, I dreamed of playing in the NHL, and playing in the NHL was great in my first game and everything, but it didn't really become surreal until I actually played for Montreal.
Yeah, that's where it seemed like it was at the next level. Like, you're looking around the Bell Center, you're talking to Cassie in there, and you're like, what a barn, eh? Like, look at this place. Like not just as a fan anymore or as a visiting player. Do you remember your first game as a visitor to the Bell Center? Like I never thought about that.
I do. I was on Vancouver when we played Montreal, but it was pretty quick. I don't think we were in Montreal for very long. It was like a back-to-back. We came in, we played, and I really don't remember that much about it. It was just kind of like, I think maybe I was a little like in awe because I was playing in Montreal for the first time. And obviously, again, being the biggest fan, I was kind of, and I might have played like 4 minutes that night. So I think that's probably why it wasn't very memorable for me.
Okay, well, that's fair. But I just thought like, when was the first time you played there? Because obviously you were the part of the home team, and that was a different story. So, but that's amazing. So I'm just gonna see if I can get this clip fired up. And I did find it. Yes, I did. Excellent. Actually, it's gonna take me a quick second just to do this on the fly, which is fine.
Impressive work, buddy.
But that's just how I roll. That's how I roll, man.
I know. You're impressive.
So here's a question. So we tried to get PK on the show so many times in Habs Tonight, right? And he even gave us an endorsement like at the beginning. Since then, has he at least responded to a text? Because that always bugged me when he didn't text you back about coming on the show.
No, yeah, we talk. I would say I talk to him probably more than anybody that I played with. So we're almost in contact every day, whether it's sending a meme or something stupid. But we're still in touch quite a bit. He's a busy guy living his life. So
yeah, I know. But I'm like, come on, he's not too busy for a friggin' guy.
No, we're good. He's to get on a show, it might take him a little while to respond, but for a regular text, he's good.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better. Okay, thank you for that. Because if we do run it back, I think it'd be pretty cool to get him on, just because we didn't get a chance to, and it'd be better to have you with us because it wouldn't have been the same otherwise. So
yeah. It would be huge. He was such a big part of that era of the Montreal Canadiens. From the time he was drafted, was it 07? Like,
yes,
he was a huge part of that era, and to go 2013 and win a Norris, like, it's incredible. Again, another guy that thrived in Montreal and played the best years of his career were in Montreal, and he'd be the first one to tell you that. So very similar on that stance. I think maybe that's why we connected so well.
Yeah, well, just again, you guys were best buddies for it seemed like a long time. You guys were getting in trouble for hanging out so much, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, always.
So what did you make of them bringing him back to do the 0005 and have him be honored at the Bell Center the way he was?
I thought it was great. I didn't know if they would. Like, he had a tremendous career, and like I said, I just think he was such a big part of that era of the Montreal Canadiens. I think they had to. You couldn't talk PK Subban from 07 to 2016 and not be either your favorite player on the team or your second favorite. Like, he was the Montreal Canadiens, and he did so much, and his donation and just everything. Like, you just got to respect it.
Yeah, no doubt. No, it's good. And honestly, like, that would be a cool thing just to see you guys. It'd be cool to see you two talking, I think, just to see your relationship, the parts that fans don't normally get to see. So if that does happen, that's great and all. But
oh yeah, it would be great to hear his Michel Therrien stories and stuff. Like, there's some good ones that we'll leave that to the imagination where he can tell them. But there's some good ones.
Okay, that's got fans excited. I can feel it in my belly right now.
Oh yeah,
which is cool and all. But by the way, I got to ask you about Carey, our buddy Carey here. Did you see him flub the draft pick last week?
I did. Yeah, I was watching. Actually, my accountant's billet was the 13th pick to Buffalo there, so I was kind of watching to see him get drafted.
Zach Benson?
Yeah, I was hoping.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I was hoping Montreal would take him, but
Shaner wanted him so bad.
Yeah, I was hoping
Shaner wanted him so bad.
Yeah,
he looks good, man.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a pretty good player. I think if he doesn't get injured on the end of the year there, he's probably a top 5 pick, but that's a steal for Buffalo.
Dude, like, they say he's one of the steals of the draft. And
I think he's going to be. He's a pretty determined kid. He's a good kid. I think he's going to be pretty well.
So you said that's your billets? One of your
my accountant's billet. He billets him.
Your accountant's billet. Okay, that's it. That's it. Got
it. It seems like he gets all the top guys. Like, he had Peyton Krebs the year before, and then now he gets Zach Benson. So if if you want to be an NHL player, you just go live at his house while you play for the Ice. Well, now you can't because the Ice are leaving, but he had
that's
some
right.
good, so
That's
he had
right.
some good billets. Yeah.
Okay. Because I remember when the Sabres picked him, I was like, oh shoot, we were talking about him, about Ryan Leonard, about all these offensive players that Michkov, which was a big deal. Maybe I'll ask your opinion on that. Did you get a chance to follow any of the part of the Montreal interest around this Russian kid Michkov? Because it sounded like a lot of fans were really, really wanting this kid to come to town.
I think what's funny is I think Montreal has had a lot of success with Russians, and just in my time there, we had some great Russians, and I don't know if every team can say that. And I don't know if there's been that many. Like I can't think of a Russian that's been. Semin came to Montreal after he got bought out, but he had some injury issues when I was there. But every other Russian that's been there has done well. Galchenyuk started off great, kind of went down at the end, but was tremendous in his younger years. So I don't know. I think Montreal has a good perception of Russians, and every other team is like, stay away from them. So I think maybe that was the excitement. But I followed it a little bit, and I don't know where I stand on it. Like if I saw him play, I could maybe make a better judgment on what I think about it. But
Sure.
Just hearing how talented he is, I don't know. You don't want to be the team that misses on like a Vladimir Tarasenkov or something, like where he could be a player like that. And it's like, wow, just because he's Russian, like if he's that good, I'm taking him.
Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned, like Montreal had Kovalev, they had Markov, Emelin, they had Romanov for a little bit. So it's interesting, but there was a lot more factors involved. And the fact that Philly took him, one of your other former teams, will be interesting to see as well. So,
that's
no, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Danny Briere, another Montreal alumni that we had a lot of connections with. So
yes, the Danny Briere line was part of. I mean, that goal I just showed you there. So with Michael Bourneval, and then your playoff run with beating the Boston Bruins, which is still like a mini Stanley Cup for us 9 years later.
Still is. It's my Stanley Cup for sure. You know what's so funny? There was like a video on Instagram or something about it was like a Boston series, and I commented on it. I made like 2 comments, and like this was like months ago, and it's still good. Like people are still, for Boston fans, firing away at me. It's awesome. Like I'm still on their head 9 years later. It's crazy.
Oh man, it's true. It's true. Like the way you guys played that series, looking at your team on paper, okay, like it's no just like David Desharnais was our second line center, wasn't he? Like,
no, he was the first line center at that time, was he?
1 or 2. He was playing with Patch, right?
Yeah.
So it was Patch, and Vanek.
Him, Patch, and Vanek until Michel got mad at Vanek and they moved him down and up and down. And
what happened with you got mad at him for what?
Well, he would always get mad at Vanek. I mean, Thomas Vanek plays at his own pace, right? Like he just played the game a certain way. He didn't play a high tempo north south. Let's move the puck forward as our whole team pretty much like to play. So he was a little more east west and do his thing, but he was so good. So that didn't clash well with Michel. But hey, it worked. It worked for a lot of the. Their line was incredible down the stretch here in 2014, and then playoffs they were decent.
Yeah, well, it's actually that was one thing I was going to ask you about too before I play this PK clip here. Is we heard how Andrew Shaw felt about Michel Therrien at the end of his career with the smoking and the arenas and just the whole story, like which was great on Habs Tonight. But Michel Therrien sits you down in his office when he did come to Montreal, and he's like, in his very French accent, I know nothing about your game, but you must have clicked with Michel. Like you must have done something to really, I mean, obviously you scored the overtime winner and that set your career off on a new level, but there must have been something good there. Did you have a pretty good relationship with Michel? Because it seemed like he was the coach who helped you excel or was there as your coach when you excelled the most.
Oh, absolutely. I love Michel Therrien. Anybody that doesn't like him, I'll argue till my face till I'm blue in the face, because I loved him. I think he was, to me, like him and Alain Vigneault were very similar. I would have loved to play for both of them in Philly. I wish I could have been there for that. But he holds everybody accountable. It doesn't matter if you're Thomas Vanek and they just traded a bunch to get you, or you're Max Pacioretty, our top goal scorer, David Desharnais, or top center, Markov, Subban. whoever you were, if you did something wrong, he's giving it to you. It didn't matter. And he held our dressing room so accountable. I loved it. That's why our team was, we had a combination of why we were so good, but that was a big part of it. And for me personally, just being a guy that was honest when I come in, like you said, he's like, I don't know a lot about your game, but I'm going to give you an opportunity. I think you could be more than you were. Just having that little bit of confidence instilled in me was huge. And I think it got to a point where I didn't want to let him down after a while, because this guy was sticking his neck out for me. He's giving me opportunities. I played well. He'd throw me up on the first line. Like, I wanted to do so well for him because he was willing to back me and give me these opportunities. So I loved him. I thought he was great. He's there was plenty of times where I'd come in the meetings and there was a long hallway from our dressing room to his office. And it was painful when he would be like, come see me in my office. And then you'd like try to follow him, but you didn't want to follow too close because his hallway was too long and you didn't want to have a conversation before you got there, or like small talk before he was about to give it to you. So I'd trail like 10 feet behind him and follow him into his office, and he would just rip me on certain times. But it wasn't like, he'd be like, hey, he would rip me and be like, I need you. It wouldn't even show a video. He'd just rip me and say, you need to be better, blah, 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 do this, do this, do this. And I'd be like, okay. But then I would go that night, and if I had 2 good shifts, he'd throw me in the first line. Where other situations, I'd be scratched. Let's go a couple years ahead in Philly. I'd get scratched for 2 weeks. You wouldn't hear a word. Couldn't get a word from the coach to tell you why or what's happening. And you wouldn't even get a chance to do anything. So I truly respect him. Another guy, Michel Therrien, that I would have a beer with him and we'd have some good laughs.
I'm sure there would be, because I mean, again, you have the history and the respect and just kind of like the whole, perspective from afar now, right? Just overlooking everything. So I like that. I'm going to play this clip from that goal I described, which I was very much behind the net at the game watching, and still haven't met you. It's so weird, man. I'm just gonna have to show up at your house, your new house someday, and just like give you a hug, and it'll be cool. It'll be cool either way. We're gonna let Lauren know ahead of time, so she's not like, who's this weirdo at the door? All right, here's that clip from Dale and PK 2-on-1.
Back to center, back in over the line. Here's Montreal 2-on-1. The shot, they score. Left wide open was Dale Weise on the 2-on-1, and the Canadiens take the lead.
If that doesn't lead us into a Subban interview, no, I'm just kidding. That's not the whole point.
We'll use that one, though. We'll use that one.
We'll use it. Absolutely, we will. But also to have Rick Jeanneret, Buffalo Sabres legend, on the call there. Dale, that's not a bad guy to have call your name. Okay, I'm just gonna throw that out there too. So,
hey, no arguments for me. I might have watched that goal probably maybe as much as some of my overtime winners, because I just think that was such a big game. I was playing so well at the start of that year, and it took me like 5 games. I scored against the Rangers at home, and then I went and scored 2 there, and then a hat trick a couple days later. I was just playing the best hockey in my career, and I just remember the feeling of being on the ice that game, where it's like, man, I just felt untouchable. Like, it's just, you get in a groove, and it was just, I tried to mimic it later after, and I could never do it. But I watched that game quite a bit. Like the second one too of that game, where I'm at the net and Markov shoots it, and I lift my leg to try to get out of the way. It goes off my leg and in, and it's like just everything was going right.
Yeah, at least you had some of those nights, right? Like when we really focus in, like you had some of those moments that some people will still never have.
Yeah,
even though you wanted it, even though you never wanted it to end a certain way, like you still had some of those moments and the playoff runs where the hair's up on your neck, and
for sure. Yeah, no, and I think I'm a very prideful guy, and I think that's why I still have a little regret. But there's so many moments that I'm proud of, and just the proud of the way I went about everything, and yeah, so I have plenty of proud moments, no doubt about it.
No doubt about it, man. Well, this has been great to catch up with you. Thanks for giving me the exclusive after a year and a half. So I feel privileged and honored as well to have you, and just to be able to shoot you messages, whenever, and you're always there. And even if I have an advice question or whatever it is, like, you're always there, man. So on behalf of me and my channel, which is, this is the first time you actually came on my channel personally. So this was fun to catch up with you, man.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. I'm happy to. And I'm always there for you. Anytime you need something, you got my number. So I'm happy to. And I'm glad I'm glad I could grace the channel. I'm sure it won't be the last time, and maybe we'll plan something for the future here.
Yeah, well, you gave us hope, so it's this is on you because it came out of your mouth. So
sneak peeks. That could be the clickbait now.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. It'll be recorded. So, well, thank you all for watching, of course. And if you do want to support the channel, you know which buttons to push. I will throw them up anyway, but smash the like button. Hit subscribe, as you used to say, even yourself, Dale. He's pointing down to hit that button. So thank you for all of you who decide to do so. And we'll be seeing this fellow over here again, Dale Weise. So thanks again, brother, for coming on.
Anytime, buddy. Happy to do it.
All right, folks. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.